Hey everybody, it's Dina Rica with the Creativity Cave, and I am super excited to share this gorgeous watercolor card that I created featuring Stampin' Up's band together stamp set and coordinating dies. This is a set that is getting retired. I highly recommend it because it's just really wonderful. I love the big gorgeous flower for watercoloring, which is wonderful, but the thing that really makes this amazing are the dies that you can get to go with it. So there are several dies in this, including this one, which we're going to use on our card. And there's so many beautiful things you can do with this gorgeous stamp set. So let me show you how I created this beautiful card. So first, because this image is so large, I thought the easiest way to stamp with it would be in my Stamparatus. So, oops, and my punch just fell. Welcome to life in my studio. Okay, now I'm going to just take an ink pad and set it under here because that helps me ink my stamp. Now on my Stamparatus, I have this set up. So I'm going to take a piece of Fluid 100 watercolor paper that I have cut to 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And I believe I just want it in this corner here. Just making sure this is the right position, maybe up just a touch. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take my magnets, and they're really strong, and that looks great. I'm going to stamp this down. I'll ink it up with some Versamark, but I'm also going to take my embossing buddy and put that down on my Fluid 100 paper. That keeps the embossing powder from sticking in places we don't want it. Okay, so I'll ink my stamp up really nicely with my Versamark ink. Make sure that it is well inked. And then I'm going to just stamp this down. I like to use the sleeve method where I use the sleeve of my shirt to help me give even pressure on here. Okay, and then I'll just take a look. Hard to capture on camera, but it looks like it's stamped well. Okay, we'll pull those magnets off and set this aside. I'm going to throw a piece of scrap paper in there just so the ink doesn't get all over. Okay, next I'll take my gold embossing powder and I'm going to cover my image with my powder. And sometimes I forget where everything is stamped, so the powder sure helps. Okay, and make sure that's covered really well. I also recently discovered a little tip that I'll share with you for this. Once you've got all the powder, the excess powder off, if you have any straggler bits of powder, you can actually use your take your pick tool, and it will remove anything that you don't want on there. So I've got a little up there, and the tacky part will pick it up, which is pretty awesome. So that looks good. Next step is we're going to heat emboss. I'll just bring that back in so you can see how pretty it is. I'm going to show you how to watercolor this. And I call it messy watercoloring. And I think you're going to enjoy it. At least I hope so. Okay, so there we go, embossed in gold, and it's beautiful. Now to color this, I'm going to choose 3 colors of ink. I will use Calypso Coral, Magenta Madness, and Granny Apple Green. These are really gorgeous colors together, as you can see, and just so springy. So I'm very much loving that. I'm going to start with my lighter color, which is Calypso Coral. I've squeezed the ink pad to the lid, just squeeze like that. You can also, if that doesn't work well for you, you can also put ink on a block with like re-inker on a block, and I'll show you that part as well. I've got my water painter, and I do need a lot of water to make this technique work. So I actually have just a little bit of water right here to help, because my my water painter doesn't always have a ton of water coming through. So I did that. I just added a little water, and I'm putting water over the top of this to give it a lot of color, or a lot of to wet it down so that the water will spread around really well. Okay, so now I'm just picking up my color, and I want some darker areas and lighter areas. So I've got some darker areas there. So then I'll come down with what's left of my water and add a little water to this. I forgot to wet this part down. I got so excited to show you my stamping, I forgot to add the water here. And I'll just cover this. You can see it's really light, but that's okay. We're going to kind of build color in as we go. Okay, so I've got color there. Looks pretty. And note, I said this is messy coloring, and I'm going outside the line, so that's all good. Now I'm going to spread this around up here, and it's really dry in my house right now because it was warm, then it was cold, and so we've had our heat on and off. And so I think it's really drying the air out because it's dried already, and that's not normally how things go. Okay, I'm going to pick up just a little bit more color and add that in. And you can see that really helps blend with that water. Okay, and I'll kind of tip this so you can see. Looking gorgeous. Notice not much skill involved here yet, right? Okay, and I'll add a little more clean water to this just because I'm seeing it dry out. Next, we're going to pick up our Magenta Madness. Again, squeeze that ink pad to the lid. And here we go. So over here, I'm going to drop the color in. And magenta is a real strong color. So you want that, you kind of want to be prepared for where it's going. But look at how it blends just by putting it out, which I think is so amazing. It's so beautiful. And we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to add that color. And what I love about the embossing is it kind of contains the color so that it doesn't go absolutely everywhere. Just in the sections you add the color. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush off. By the way, having a little thing of water helps clean your brushes a little easier too, I think. Okay, so my brush is clean. And now I'm going to do a little blending. We're going to kind of come and add a little bit more color and then blend some of the sections together. Like so, and same thing here. And then I might clean my brush, add a little bit more Calypso Coral where needed. Now I do have kind of a lot of water down here, and that's okay. It just will take a little bit longer to dry. All right, so that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to maybe just touch up the edges of this. And I still have a little Calypso Coral on my brush. So I kind of like blending the lighter areas out with both colors. So the magenta from this section plus the Calypso Coral that's still in my brush. And that looks good. Blend this out all the way too. Okay, that looks awesome. I'm very excited about this. Now, it's also okay if there's a little bit of white areas in places. That's all right. Don't worry too much about that. All right, we're going to kind of let that dry, and we're going to focus on the green part. Now, as I mentioned, I do have some leftover from another project I was doing. Got some green ink on my block here, so I'm going to just pick up some of that, and I'm going to color right on here. And I'm going to be a little careful because I know I've got some water over here. I don't want that to bleed. That would not look good. But we'll just kind of color this on, and then we're going to add more color and subtract some color too. Okay. And it all has to do with the amount of water that's on your brush. Okay. So again, I'm being real careful over here because I'm kind of playing with fire with this water over here. So I'm being real careful, keeping it light too. Okay, now what I want to do is add, and I've got this wet, I'm going to add some color to this. And re-inker is nice, vibrant color. So you can see it's really getting dark towards the bottom here, which adds just beautiful shading and makes things look very pretty. Okay, but at the end of the day, this is watercolor. So we want to add a little water in a few spots to this. And that water will kind of play and create that watercolory look. Again, I'm staying away from that very edge right there. I still don't have any color there. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now I do have a little droplet of water that came from somewhere. Just kind of picking that up. If I had a tissue with me, I would use a tissue to soak that water up. But this looks pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to heat this a little bit. I don't want to be so close that I remelt the embossing powder. What I'm trying to do is just dry the wet portions of my card. So that means I'm kind of not going too close, going kind of in and out. And if I have any big droplets, I'm being careful not to push them around. But when you dry water, what happens is you get some cool effects. So did you see how that area dried right there? Very pretty. Now, you could leave this as is, or what you can do is take some clean water from your water brush and just kind of add that around in a couple spots. And when you do that, and I think I'm going to come in with a little darker color down here too. When you do that, you get some interesting effects with the watercolors. Kind of water droplets. Like we saw as we were drying this section. That kind of hard edge where the water dries with the paint is so pretty. Okay. And I think that's good. I'm going to dry once more. That's a little wet. I'm picking that up with my finger. Again, if I had a tissue, that's what I'd use. I don't have a tissue handy. And I'm too lazy to go get one. So there you go. Now again, that water's moving around, so I'm going to be careful not to... There we go. And you can see it's drying pretty quick. When it's real humid out, it doesn't dry this fast. But like I said, I think my house is pretty dry right now. Okay, so there we go. Oh, isn't that just gorgeous? Oh, so pretty. Now I had thought about kind of flicking some color on here to coordinate with my card, but I decided against it because I was worried I'd get it either too much or just not the right amount. So instead, I'm going to add some clear Wink of Stella on the top later. Okay, I'll set that aside for a moment, and then I want to create the card. So I'm going to start with a half a sheet of Magenta Madness, which, if you haven't noticed, is probably my second favorite color next to Coastal Cabana. And it's so pretty. And then I also have my Calypso Coral layer. So I'm going to layer these two together. My Calypso Coral is 4 by 5 1/4 inches. I'm going to use some Seal Plus on this layer just to kind of hold everything down. You can use Seal as well, but because this is a little bit warped from the repeated heating and watercoloring, I wanted it to really stick well to that layer of Calypso Coral. Okay, so that looks good. All right, I'm going to set that down for a moment, and then I'm going to prepare my sentiment. Now, my stamp set comes with a bunch of really wonderful sentiments, which is great. And I've also die cut this piece here. This is the band from the Detail Bands dies. And I'm just going to put this down. And of course, I have I have a die brush. Can I find it? Oh, here it is. I did set it down, so it'd be handy for my video. Okay, so I'm just going to roll my die brush over this, and that will pop out the pieces. Now, because I did kind of a partial die cut, it's sort of sticking in there pretty good. But my Take Your Pick tool is so good at getting rid of all those things. We'll pull this little curly Q out, and look at how cool that is. All right, so I've got this piece, and I'm actually going to cut it right down the middle, which I've already done, so I can have kind of a little border to use on my card. I didn't want the whole thing because I thought it was kind of busy, but just this piece was really nice. So I'm going to cut these little ends off because we don't need those. And then I will adhere it to the base of my piece. Now, this is just a scrap of my Fluid 100 paper that I cut down for my panel. It's 3/4 of an inch wide, and or I should say high. And then I'm going to stamp my sentiment in some black StazOn ink from my stamp set. And like I said, there's some really nice sentiments that come in this set. So this says, "You are amazing." And I will just stamp it a little bit in the middle of this panel. I'm going to punch it. Oh, and I caught the edge. Do you see that? Now let me show you a little sneak trick. I've got a sand eraser that can take care of this. I want to make sure it's dry, but a sand eraser is something that you can actually get in my adhesive kits. I'll put the link in the description of this video. And when you erase, this pulls off the ink, and look, it's disappearing right in front of me, which I just love. And now it's gone. Oh, how awesome is that? Okay, so we can use that. I'm going to take my triple banner punch and punch the end of this like so. And then I'm going to adhere that little layer to the bottom back side of this. So I'll put a line of seal down, and then I'll take and position this so it's kind of centered right over. That looks good. And then I'll just make sure, oh, and it's just perfectly fits. I was going to trim anything excess off that I needed to trim off. And now I'm going to pop this up onto my card. So I'll actually take a couple of lengths of my dimensionals. And one thing this does is it covers up that seal that I put down. Maybe just a little bit more. Right there. Okay. And then we're going to add this to our panel, and any excess we'll trim off. Okay. So you almost hate to cover up any of this too, by the way. Oh, isn't that just beautiful? Okay. I'll trim this off. There we go. So pretty. All right. Now I'm going to pop this entire panel up onto my card. And then I will spritz it with my Clear Wink of Stella because it's just so pretty. And it's times like this where I seriously just can't even believe that I can make something so beautiful and not really have fancy professional watercolor skills. I mean, yes, I'm good at watercoloring, of course. It's come with lots and lots of practice, but I'm not really a professional watercolorist. Probably because I can't make things that aren't already stamped pretty. Okay, so I'm just smacking my Clear Wink of Stella on here to get a little shimmer added, and voila, so pretty. Oh, and you can see every time you do this, you get a little different effect, but always gorgeous. So I hope you loved this. Now, if you'd like to purchase any of the supplies that I used, I would be so grateful for your business. You can shop my online store. There's a link in the description of this video, along with links for all the supplies that I used. And when you shop, please use my host code for April when your order is under $150, and I will send you a fabulous all-star tutorial PDF as a gift with your purchase of $50 or more. Don't wait too long, because both the band together stamp set and coordinating dies are on the discontinued list, and they will be sold out here by the end of the month, if not sooner. Stamp sets are guaranteed until April 23rd to be in stock. After that, they're while supplies last, so don't wait. All right, guys, have a great day, and I will see you soon. Thank you so much for stamping with me. Bye-bye.